Thank you, Jen. Okay, so I'm Shannon Fitzpatrick from the Danville Diablo store, like Jen said. I am super excited to be doing the January What to Do in the Garden. I love these classes. So many of you guys have asked me to make sure that I do them every month. I'm really trying. There are only so many days in the month, and we have so many cool classes that we're trying to fit in there. So if by chance it's a little bit later, I mean, we're already at mid-January. Good grief. She's right. It's going to be February in a second. I was at a meeting today and they were saying it's already February and tomorrow it's going to be April, which I thought was a really interesting way to look at it. So yeah, it's going fast, it's coming fast. And so, like I said, we'll do as many of these as we can in the beginning of the month, but you know, you can always, we do send out an email every month and a handout for those of you who still get snail mail that talks about like what to do in the garden this month. It talks about products, it talks about plants, it talks about how to care for things, all sorts of information. So when I do these presentations, I'm really pulling a lot of it from that handout. So if by chance you don't get to see my lovely face, you can still get all the information on the handout and on our website, and it's just kind of everywhere. So I'm gonna try to be fast. I was telling Jen, I can be so talkative and wordy. And I know on Wednesday night, everybody's like, I've been at work all day. I want to hear what you have to say, but hurry up. We have dinner to make. We gotta go. So I will be fast, I promise. You were talking about fruit trees though, and you know, pruning and stuff before things leaf out. It's so funny because like cold winter weather came so early this time. You know, in November, it was already like freezing temps, and then we got all that rain, and it was been beautiful the last couple days, and things are starting to leaf out already. We had like our dormant roses delivered, and so many of them already have little baby leaves popping up and stuff. So it's coming. It's gonna be fast, guys. I hope that you have like your big girl and big boy pants on, because it's gonna be a race as we try to figure out this whole weather, climate, and stuff together. Okay, I am coming to you today from the Pleasant Hill store, so I have to shout them out. Let me get out of the way so I can show you my lovely setup that they did for me that has all of the goodies that I'm going to be talking about today and everything that's in the what to do in your garden. Sam, thank you very much for setting this all up for me. I really appreciate Tim and the staff at the store letting me use this room and do this from here. Okay, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the weather. It is freezing. Like that's, you know, new news. It has been cold. And when we had the rain, it warmed up a little bit. You weren't getting quite as many of those freezing temps. But boy, I went outside this morning and my car doors and window sealed shut, totally iced over. So the cold is back. Those freezing temps are back. Definitely you need to be protecting your plants. So when you have consistent nights in the 30s, that's when you really need to be looking at protection from like frost blankets or some kind of anti-transpirant spray. I always say that wrong. So just one-off nights, not a big deal. But when you start having those consistent freezing temps at night, you really need to protect things. Succulents, absolutely. Citrus, absolutely if you can. It's a little bit harder to kind of wrap frost blankets around a citrus tree unless it's small, but whatever you can do, even if it's just something, I saw somebody kind of like build a teepee around their citrus tree. It was a semi-dwarf, so it was, you know, only about 6 feet or so tall, but they had stakes in the ground, 4 of them, and just their frost cloth was kind of over the top. So anything that you can do to protect with frost cloth is awesome. And that is, I feel like Dan White. Insulate frost blanket here. These are so cool, and you can cut them down to size. They come in, let's see, a 12 by 10 feet. But again, you're going to cut it for whatever your area is. You can lay it right on top. You definitely want to take these out off in the morning though, when the sun comes out, or let's say it doesn't come out, but at least the sun is up. Take these off so whatever, you know, light rays they can get, the plants can get really easily without having to fight through the frost blanket. So this at night during freezing temps, or you can use, this is Wilt Stop. There we go. Wilt Stop is an anti-transpirant spray that you can spray right on there and really helps them to not lose quite so much moisture. helps to kind of seal that in. And you can always water. Water is always a good thing. It seems counterintuitive because it seems like if you watered it and then it got frosty nice and everything would ice over, but it helps to just put moisture in the soil just to keep everything healthy and to keep it having a little bit of, just that wetness around it so that it doesn't freeze, which, like I said, seems backwards, but I swear it's true. And then the wilt stop really helps. So this is a concentrate. You can put this in a spray, even a spray bottle if you wanted to, or in like a pump sprayer, which all the slopes have, or there is this handy dandy ready to use. And you see this a lot during Christmas because we always sell it with Christmas trees and wreaths for the exact same reason. But ignore the Christmas tree. You can use it all year round. It is, but definitely only during, when you really need it is during freezing temps. Okay.
Shannon, can you hold that up like closer so we can see the words? Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay, so wilt stop in all the stores. Okay. So that is protection from the frost. So insulate, frost blankets. I'm gonna look at my notes because, like I said, I want to talk fast and I want to get it all in there. And use a combination of these things. You may, end up using a frost blanket and some wilt stop here and there, or combining it with that watering. Obviously, water first so that you don't spray the wilt spray and then water it right off. But you can use a combination of those things. It doesn't have to be either or. Use what works for you in your setting. Whether it's in a pot, in the ground, whatever, they work for all of those. Also, with it being so cold, there's some things that are just not gonna make it. It was really cold, like I said, early in the winter, and then it rained and rained and rained, and some things were like, that's it. And it's okay, and it doesn't make you a bad plant mommy or daddy, I promise. Some things are just not gonna make it through the season, but it's time to make those decisions so that you can make space for all the new cool things that are coming. Spring is like, it's like going to the candy store. Well, definitely it is for me. I'm sure for a lot of you it is also. It's just so exciting to see all the new cool stuff and the beautiful blooms and all the neat things that are available. And if you are saving this space for this plant that has just been like hanging on, there's no room for the new cool stuff. So make some decisions. It's okay. Some things are not going to make it every year. Everything has kind of a cycle. So compost it like you're supposed to, and find something that will be able to, use that space more appropriately. Okay, cleanup. So with all of the rains and all that stuff, there is a lot of water-logged plants and yards out there. It is tough. This is the time where you really see kind of what your drainage is about. You're going to see what things do well and what things are not doing well. It's been a long time since we've had this much rain, and especially such a short time period. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that just didn't do well. So you need to be checking all those things. Anything that's in a pot, if you were at all confused about whether it had a hole or not before, how well it was draining, you should know for positive by now. Anything that has got water sitting in it or is still, soggy to the touch, it might be time for a repotting, or it might be time to, put another hole in the bottom of that pot. I was talking to somebody the other day, you can't do it with ceramic, but they had one of the half wine barrels, and they were saying that the hole on the bottom wasn't enough, that they hadn't made it big enough. And we were talking about how another manager said, drill a hole in on the side, down toward the bottom. But as long as it is in a place where the water, level makes sense, and you can still have that water, escape out of the hole, don't be afraid to put another hole into a pot that will allow it if you're at all concerned about it. Because if there's one thing that you cannot come back from, it is that rot. It is that root rot. Once it gets too wet and too molded and too nasty, it's done. There's no medicine, there's no spray, there's no music, there's no nice words. There's nothing, there's no coming back. So anything that's sitting in water, fix that as quickly as you can. Make sure you get that drained out. Make sure you have the appropriate soil in there. As with most things, soil is not made, it's not all equal. And though I've heard so many times, well, the plant doesn't know what the fertilizer is called or what the numbering system is. That's true, but the soils that slope carries are specific for whatever their use is. So if it says planting mix, it is made to go on the ground. It is made specifically specifically for the ground in the Bay Area, which has so much clay in it. So it's made specific for that. If it's a pot and we say use potting soil, there's a reason for that. The drainage is different, you know, when you have a plant in a pot than when you have it in the ground. And so you want it to be able to hang on to a little bit more water so that you don't have to be running around out there watering every 5 minutes. But you know, now on the opposite of that, now that there's so much water, you need to make sure that it is draining out and that you're using the proper soil for all of that. Okay, so confirm drainage. Oh, and any saucers. Saucers are amazing. They protect patios. They have all sorts of, you know, great qualities, but they also hold water. You've got, you know, a ginormous saucer so that you don't ruin an area. Make sure that this time of the year that you are emptying it so that, again, it's not just sitting in that standing water. Okay, it's better for them. Let's see, clean up. Finally, time for tree pruning. So this is, we had talked about like light pruning, you know, in the fall, late summer, early fall for some of our classes. But now it's time to get in there and get dirty. Now it's time to do all the hard cutting. January is the time of year where it is the coldest in the Bay Area. Again, that is historically, who knows what our new climate is going to be like, but it's definitely time to get all of your real cutbacks done. So that includes your roses, any shrubs that you're cutting back, any trees that need pruning. Jen mentioned that we're going to be doing like a citrus pruning class sometime at the end of the month. And so this is what this is the time. This is when all the sap is the lowest, all that energy is down in the root ball. There's not as much going on. Nothing is growing, nothing is leafing, nothing is fruiting. There's, you know, nothing to see up here. Is all happening underneath. So make sure that you know, get that heavy pruning done now where you can really cut things back and, you know, give them an opportunity to be really healthy for the coming spring. So roses, shrubs, and trees, that is true for. It's also time to cut back like perennials. We have some beautiful salvia in front of the store on Diablo, and it broke my heart because they're still kind of leafed out. There's even a few blooms there, oddly enough. But we had to cut them all back. So now is the time to get all those beautiful perennials. It's okay that there's still leaves left on them. It's okay that there's a few blooms, you know, hanging on for dear life. If you don't cut them now, they're going to be way too leggy and way too crazy looking. And you'll be like, why is there only leaves and blooms on the top, you know, foot of my plant and it's 4 feet tall? Well, you have to cut it back. You've got to cut it back so you can spur on all that new growth and have it be nice and full and dense with flowers everywhere and not just, you know, all these tall sticks and then a little flower on the end. Okay, so it's better for them. I know it breaks your heart. It's like getting a really good haircut. You know you need it and you know it's better for your hair. Just go ahead and do it. Cut those perennials back, and also ornamental grasses. Some of them are just gorgeous during the fall and winter. They've got that like straw look, and but now it's time for them to go. And there's a lot of the, I always say it wrong, like the Carl Forester, the Calamagrostis. Pay me no attention. I'm sure I'm saying it incorrectly, but they have the really pretty blooms that are still hanging on. I know it is heartbreaking, but again, cut them back. Otherwise, it's going to take the new blades so long to pop out of this big mess of dead grass that you've got there. It's going to be, you know, August by the time you're seeing anything new and pretty. If you cut it back now, then again, all that energy goes back down into the roots and gets ready to make new pretty grass. So don't delay. Do it now, even though it hurts your soul a little bit. So when you are, let's see, am I supposed to be showing anything? Oh, wait. I forgot, all the stuff is behind me, and so I keep forgetting to do my banner. So here's dormant roses. Again, you'll see that, maybe you won't see. I'll come up there. So you can see that there's already like little leaves growing on there, just on the tips. So there's already like new growth on these dormant plants. So now is the time. Do your cutting before that comes on there so you don't cut off everything new that's growing. I was talking about tools. So tools for cutting. Lots of different cutters here. Here is a branch and stem pruner. This is Corona. I love this one. I know everybody gets to like talk about their favorites, but this one is mine. This one is an inch. So it'll cut a branch up to an inch thick. So you can just pay attention to that. Sometimes you get a little baby one and you're like, why want to cut this big branch? Well, because it's only for a 1/4 inch. cutting. So this is a really good one. These are our scissors. They're outdoor, you know, landscaping scissors. They're not like scissors. So these work really well. Lots of different kinds of pruners here. Lots of different price ranges, whatever works for you. There's even stuff for lefties. Not all stores sell stuff for lefties, but we've got some for lefties available. So get your pruners, and then when you're done with your pruning, alcohol. Clean your tools. You can spread disease just from trimming. You know, you cut one that you didn't even notice that it had like some little fungal something on there, some little copper, not copper, but some kind of little rust or something, and then you take it from that plant and then you cut another one and now that one has it. And so cleaning in between. You can clean between all of your plant cutting, not every cut, whatever, but just between plants. Use this alcohol with a rag or with a paper towel or something, and just clean off the blades of your tools. So the alcohol works really well. Obviously you don't need a ginormous jug, but we have it here if you want it. And then this one is lubricating oil. It really helps when like when the blades get kind of rusty and get old and they start to stick. So you clean it with the alcohol, and then you can use this lubricating oil. It's food grade, it's non-toxic, it works really well, it's not super messy. You might not be able to see it perfectly, but it has a little baby-sized nozzle, so you can just squirt it on there almost like it was a little dropper. So super easy to use and will help you be able to keep your tools for a long time. They're not cheap, you know, so take care of them so that they will take care of you and your yard.
Shannon, can you show a little closer the tools and stuff? Because it's just hard to see it. So then or any of the stuff.
Let me see if I can push my table up a little bit. Okay. I'm so close. Now you just mostly see me. So there's those. And these are the scissors that I was talking about. So professional, heavy duty. These are by Barnell. And then again, we all have our favorites. I love these Coronas. They are my favorite. I keep them in my pocket at work. I use them for literally everything. So lots of different choices. I mean, and then you can have the big kind of like hedge trimmers. There's so many things, but like I said, we're just kind of talking about hard cutback pruning. So I brought the smaller ones to as an example, but lots of different choices, and all of your slopes will have all of these goodies. Okay. That was tools. What else? Okay, so dormant spray. So we're still kind of in that cleanup mode where we're, what are the things that we need to kind of get ready while the weather is the way that it is, why it is the time of the year that it is, to get ready for spring stuff. So dormant sprays, a lot of this rain, you know, washed away anything that you did when we first suggested that you do it in November, you know, early December. And so anything that you sprayed anytime before the last few atmospheric rivers or oceans or whatever you want to call them, you know, passed over, all that spray is gone. So definitely if you did dormant spraying, do it again. And if you were doing anything else, so there's the, let's see here, oops, that's in the way. So there is the all seasons horticultural oil. This one is awesome and is the perfect dormant spray. It's the one that we recommend all the time. And you can use this one again just for protection. It helps to even make it stronger for next season, so it's less susceptible to disease and it's less susceptible to, you know, attacks from insects and stuff like that. So dormant sprays are a big deal. Let's see, I do have some. So copper fungicide, liquid cop, these are all for protection against diseases. So while the dormant spray works just fine, if there's something particular, like if you know that your peach tree really suffered from peach leaf curl last year, you want to use a copper fungicide of some kind. Technically, these are the exact same thing. But this one is one that you can like use, or actually both of these are ones you can use with a hose, so that you plug your hose in on this end and then it shoots out this way. So it's easier, you can kind of stand back, especially for bigger trees. Nobody wants to get up there with a ladder and get carpal tunnel trying to get every corner of everything. So definitely make use of these. I know they're a little bit more expensive, but they're concentrate, so you're going to use less of them and it's so much less hassle. So don't be scared of these. So that's copper fungicide or liquid cop. Again, it's pretty much the same thing. And there was one other one. Oh, the Bonide All Seasons Oil. That's also a good protection that I was just talking about from insects. So between those two, make sure you get your spraying done again. We've got a break in the rain, and hopefully when it comes back, it won't be quite as heavy duty. So every time it rains, you don't have to run out there and spray again. But when you get it as long and as bad as we did, definitely reapply. Sluggo. So for those of you who have snail issues, snails and slugs and that kind of thing, Sluggo. You just put this down and it kills them in the soil before they can even, get to the plants. It's not something that's foliar. You don't spray the plant. You sprinkle the ground and it gets them there. I swear by Sluggo Plus because I have earwigs like crazy in my yard, at the garden. I feel like within the last year or two, I don't know where all these earwigs came from, but they showed up kind of in force and they've been everywhere. So Sluggo Plus, whatever that plus is, it is the thing that works against earwigs. So it's something that, and earwigs are also pincher bugs. So it is anything that is attacking your plants, and you'll know that it's earwigs because when the holes go on your plants, it's like in the middle. You get caterpillars and other creepy crawlies that will attack around the leaf and they'll just kind of eat at it. But pincher bugs literally like random holes in the middle of the leaf. So it's kind of how you can tell what is attacking your stuff. Okay, so that is snails, etc. What else?
Shannon, what are we dormant spraying? Like, what do we have to spray?
So things that are dormant right now are pretty much the things that we've been talking about. Things like your fruit trees. Citrus trees are tough because they kind of, in our area, they grow all through the year, and all of the orange trees and all the citrus at the nursery right now has got fruit all over it. Thank God, because I've been munching on it. So you want to be careful with those because you can still obviously eat the fruit, but when it's in that flowering stage, you don't want to do it. But when it's after the flowering stage and after the fruit has formed, then you can spray those down. You can spray down the salvias like we talked about, a lot of your perennials that you want to protect. Any kind of shrubs or other trees, that kind of thing, you can do dormant spraying on. Anything that loses its leaves for sure. But also things that, don't necessarily lose all their leaves like the citrus, but tend to be more prone to stuff, to diseases and to, attacks by insects and stuff like that. And you'll know a little bit better in your own yard, but those are some of the things, that you want to look for. I have people that come in and are like, oh my God, there's ants everywhere. They tend to be looking for something. If you have a lot of ants on a plant, you probably have aphids or something somewhere. And using these sprays during the dormant season will really help to protect against that. I'm not saying that, if you spray this, you will never get aphids. That is not true. But it definitely helps to protect against them and makes them less susceptible when that time of year comes around. It's a little bit muggier and the aphids are super happy and flying around. Go after them now to help protect the plants against them for later. Okay. So speaking of citrus trees, because and also for fruit trees, but specifically for citrus trees, because they are still fruiting, you want to use something to protect from the rats. I get people all the time that are like, it was so beautiful and the trees were full of fruit, and every last one of them, whether it's a squirrel, whether it's a tree rat, whatever, they were like, they're ruined now. They've taken a bite out of every last one. So using something to kind of help protect against those rodents coming, something that they stink. So the Repel-Zol smells to high heaven. I will not lie, but it only stinks when you put it out. And then after a little while, that smell dissipates for us. But because animals have such heightened sense of smell, they can still smell it and they will avoid. So we have it in a granular, which is nice because it's a little bit of a slower release, so it stays there for longer. But we also have the sprays. And the bags, well, the packaging period, regardless, looks like this. And it has a laundry list of animals that don't like this, including armadillo. So rest assured that if there's an armadillo in your area, your stuff is protected. So,
I don't even know if they eat plants. I guess they must.
I have no idea. I was like, and literally when I saw it on there, I was talking to a customer who was reading through it, and I'm like, armadillo. And I was like, well, maybe they like root around, maybe they're kind of like turkeys that will just tear it up for the sake of tearing it up. So, Repelzol works really well for protecting against rodents and small animals that tend to go after things like that you want to save. You've been waiting patiently for all the pomegranates to finally ripen, and then you go to get them and literally they're ruined. And so it happens really often with fruit trees of all kinds. So use your Repelzol. Do your best to do it at a time when everybody's not outside. I tell people often, like, do it at night, so that by the morning you don't really smell it anymore, and it's not that bad. So, and there's a couple different kinds, but I really like this one, the Repelzol.
Does that get gophers, Shannon?
Let's see.
Yeah.
It says, and I quote, armadillos, beavers, birds, crows, chipmunks, deer, groundhogs, porcupine, rabbits, raccoons, rats, skunks, shrews, and squirrels. No gophers. There is other gopher stuff. There's gopher scram. There's gopher spray. There's lots of things. Gophers are tough, I will not lie. And I don't feel like it's fair to recommend something for gophers. Oh, use this and you'll be fine. Gophers are really tough because they move around. It's really easy to lose track of them. You think you have it and they just skirted over here to this other area. So when you're ready to fight gophers, you really have to be diligent about putting out poison, putting out whether you're doing the smoke bombs or anything like that. There are some, what is it called when you don't kill it? What are the traps called when they're, I can't think of the word,
like
but you
live traps.
Yes. So the ones that, and they just like throw up a little flag. There's tons of stuff on the market. So if you're really struggling with gophers, there is hope. It is just baby size. So they're tough. They are tough. Okay, that's Repelzol. Let's see. Okay, weeding. So all this rain is amazing, but it also creates weeds. It is anything that was laying there dormant, thinking they were just gonna, freeze out for the winter. They're like, oh, look at this water, thank you. And they, they root and they start popping up like that. It seems like it's overnight. Pull them now. I know that nobody wants to go out and do weeding, but whatever you can pull the second that you see it is so much better, because then you don't have to waste time on trying to kill things here and there. Pull it as soon as you see it. It'll save you so much time and frustration later on. You certainly can spray it, but at this stage of the game, if you can just get them in singles and get the root all the way out, definitely pull it. The other thing that you can use is, and I'm a huge fan of this product, is the maize. We also have it in a granular that's called Preen, Preen, which I do not have an example of, but I'm sure you guys have seen it around. This one is the maize weed preventer, and this is made with corn gluten meal. The cool thing about these is that you spray it. Now they don't kill weeds, it's not a weed killer, but it catches the weed before the germinating takes place. So while the seed of the weed is in your ground, starting to do its thing, the liquid, corn gluten gets in there and stops it and kills it then before it can even form. So this is something, again, it's not a weed killer. It is a weed preventer. So if you've already got weeds and you run out there and spray it and you come in and you're like, Shannon, it didn't work. You're right, it didn't work, but it's going to protect against anything else that was going to come, after the fact. So pull anything that you see or kill anything that you see, and then definitely use some kind of, whether it's the granular or whether it's the liquid. These things are magical. It's awesome. You're gonna forget that weeds even exist because they really do work that well. Okay, so this is the weed preventer, the maize version.
That'll kill any seed though too, right? So just be careful. If you put down wildflower seeds and it stops the germination, I'm pretty sure.
So seed, probably yes.
Yeah.
This says use in and around flower and vegetable gardens, lawns, trees, shrubs, and ornamentals. I'm telling you, I read up on this, I don't know, it was probably last spring when we started really promoting it, and I just thought I must be misunderstanding this. How does it know that it's a weed seed and not like what you said, a flower seed or whatever? But apparently when something is, but this is the whole point, is that if it's already established, it does nothing. But if it's a seed and it's not established yet, this can go after it. So keep that in mind. Yes, you're right. If you throw down flower seeds, it will kill them also. But if it's a flower that's already there, whether it's blooming or not, but it's still alive and it has a root system, then you don't have to worry about it. So just any kind of seeds, okay? That is the weed preventer. Let's see what else. And what I wrote down was weeds that bloom with the rain go to seed in March and April. So you want to catch it now before the sun starts to come out. And again, even over the last couple of days, you've really seen, you know, things start to pop now that, you know, the sun is out a little bit. So do it now so that come March, April, when things would be in full weed season, that you're ahead of the game. Okay, I'm hurrying. To plant or not to plant. So deciduous plants are now available, obviously including roses. So some of my favorites are like the flowering cherries, the flowering plums. A lot of the fruit trees and stuff are in. We got our first shipment of dormant fruit trees. I know there used to be bare root and people still come in looking for bare roots. Slope does not sell bare root anymore. We do the dormant just so that it's, you know, lasts a little bit longer. It's easier for us to care for. It's easier for us to keep healthy, but it is essentially the same thing. It's a bare root fruit tree or a rose for that matter, which I know we also used to do bare roots, but already tucked into, you know, a nice little pot of dirt, fertilized and ready to roll. So there's a bunch of them in all of the nurseries right now. So come grab whatever your favorite is, or start kind of stalking them out and thinking about what kind of apricot you want and what kind of peach you want this year and just what kind of things you want to see in the garden coming up. There's lots of different dormants. And the reason I tell people to try to grab the flowering cherries and plums and stuff now is because, oh my God, they bloom before they leaf out. So it literally looks like this, just like cloud of flowers, and they're like little pink flowers or little purple flowers for most of the plums and cherries, and they are gorgeous. And if you get the ones that are the weeping, it looks like little flowers are like falling from the sky. It's the prettiest thing ever. And then they leaf out afterwards. So you get the flower first and then the leaves come on, and they just put on such a show. So if you're a fan, like clearly I am, definitely go in there and get your flowering dormant trees. Like I said, like the flowering cherries and plums. So cool. Oh, also Japanese maples. It's also really nice with Japanese maples to get them now because you can really see the structure. And I guess that's another good thing for buying things when they're dormant, because a lot of picking a good plant is looking at its bones. You know, it's like most things. You kind of want to see what the architecture is. You want to judge how, you know, nice and even it looks. And you want to walk around all sides and really get an idea of, you know, so you can imagine what this is going to look like. Is this the right one for your space? I mean, you don't have that much room, but this one is really wide. So maybe you're looking for something that's a little bit straighter up and down. So buying things when they're dormant is awesome. And Japanese maples are a really good example of that. And so that you can see what that architecture is and you can decide ahead of time whether that is the right one for you. Okay, so first of the summer bulbs are also starting to show up. That is, what is that? Gladiolas and dahlias. Not yet, don't go running down the slope tomorrow, but they are coming soon. Definitely call the stores ahead of time, but we're getting to that point where we're starting to get some summer bulbs in so that you can plant them now and they'll be ready for bloom for summer. I've had a lot of people call it out potatoes also. Those are coming in soon. They should be in the next couple of weeks if they're not already in some of the stores. We're expecting them anytime now so you can get all those sown and get them ready for pulling in the spring and the summer for the bulbs. And then when you're doing, when you're planting any of this stuff, definitely give it a top dressing. Now is a good time of year to be covering things so that you're protecting against weeds and you're allowing for that top dressing to kind of give you an extra moisture barrier so that as the sun is coming out that you're still able to hold on to that moisture. Again, remember, this is all pretty up here, but the real work is being done down below. So you want to protect that part of the plant that is in the earth that we don't see. So you want to make sure that it is got enough moisture, that it's being protected. Also, again, it'll fight against those weeds like we were just talking about. The best one is, I'm not going to pick it up because I would make a mess, but it's Forest Mulch Plus. It is right here. They come in a 2 cubic foot bag. We recommend it all the time. It has like aged, I think it's aged fir bark. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. Aged fir bark and like chicken manure. So you're getting all the nutrients and stuff of having a good fertilizer in there. And it's just getting mixed into that soil. It's breaking down over time and it's changing the composition of that soil that you guys are always fighting with, that clay that has like no good properties. But this, as you're adding it in there and as it's depleting over the year, you know, it's becoming your new soil composition. So having that fertilizer, that coarse mulch plus, where you're getting the bark that's broken down, it's not like big chunks of bark. You're not going to walk away and be like, I didn't want mulch. It's all mixed together and it's already got that chicken manure in there. So you're getting some good fertilizer and nutrients. Okay. I talked about that. I talked about top dressing. Oh, so I know we've been talking a lot about houseplants, so I will not belay it anymore. I know we've had a couple of classes and stuff on them and webinars on picking the right houseplant for you, but just a couple of quick reminders. There's so many new varieties and stuff. I feel like every year, if you are a social media person, there's so many cool things to choose from. So definitely check it out. Each of our stores kind of caters to what is popular at the time. We have the staples that are things that we know grow well in this area and are easy to care for, but there's also some really cool things. Some of them are gonna pinch your pocketbook just a little bit, but oh my God, when you see these like pink princess, you know, philodendron and half the leaf is pink, or the Thai constellation where, you know, it's got this amazing variegation on these monstera leaves, they're just stunning. Now again, not the cheapest choice, but definitely a collector item. So just be aware that there's some really neat stuff out there if you want to try something new. Make sure that you get as much advice as you can possibly get from your local store, just so that you know how to take care of it. You don't want to spend that much money and then not be able to take care of it correctly. So lots of cool varieties to look for. Things that you really need to pay attention to this time of year are those, because it's cold, everybody's running their heater in their house. It's not the kind of heat that tropical plants like, okay? I know they're used to a warmer climate. It is not the heater. So it gets too hot and dry when you're just running your heater all the time for these house plants. So if you're not somebody who's going to, buy a separate humidifier, know that you can always set the plant within its pot on a small tray of rocks with a little bit of water in it. Again, you don't want it soaked and all up the edge and literally sitting in water, but just enough so that moisture can help to hydrate, some of these plants. Obviously, it works better for small plants than for big plants. I don't want you out there trying to get your 50-pound ceramic, plant and holder and pot onto this. But for the smaller ones, super easy. You just get a nice long tray. Even you're thinking like a small, maybe plastic version of like a cookie sheet. Like that's the size that we're thinking. That's the style, the height, the depth. So rocks on it, fill it with water, set your plant on top of there. It's just enough that you can get that moisture into those plants to help them during this super hot in the house time of year. Okay, so heaters. Also really pay attention to your watering with houseplants right now. While you do want to water them, definitely be checking them, because they don't want to sit in water either. In houseplants, it's even tougher because they don't have the elements to help dry it out. Again, I know your heaters are all running, so maybe that's not as big an issue, but just pay attention to what your water is. I know there's all these water meters and rapid tests, this and that, but I swear by just using your finger. Put your finger in the soil before you water your plants, inside, outside, whatever. Know that an inch or two down, if it's still wet, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Let it dry out a little bit. You don't want nothing unless you have some kind of water plant wants to be wet all the time. The whole process is watering it really well so that every ounce of soil in there is wet, and then let it dry. Okay, so a couple inches down, if it's still wet, leave it alone. That's also patio plants. House, like inside the house, and things that are not out in the elements. If you have something in a covered area, that counts. So treat that one, everything that I just said, also for any plants that are on patios or uncovered areas. And then last, let's see, did I miss anything? Sure start for fertilizing, for anything that you're putting in the ground, like when if you do any of the bulbs, that kind of thing. We do have some bulb fertilizer, but Sure Start is the best case scenario. It's the best thing that you can do for any plant that you put in the ground. It has all those beneficial bacteria, all the beneficial microbes. It's got the mycorrhiza. It's the best setup that you can, just like you would treat your kid. I want them to get the best education possible. Well, this is the best thing that you can do for any plant that you put in the ground, is to add Sure Start into it. Next is birds, and then I'm done. That was fast. I think it was fast. Was it fast, Jen, or am I lagging anyway?
No, you're doing really good. You're covering it.
Okay. So, winged friends. So there are still birds in our area. You know, there's still birds that are nesting here that are, no, not everybody flies south for the winter. Although if I was a bird, I would have been gone. It's been way too cold in the Bay Area this winter for me, but lots of birds still around. So definitely still be feeding your birds. We have so many choices, and just like there's lots of different types of birds, there's lots of different types of bird food. So you want to be making sure that you are, if you have little tiny finch in your area and that's what's coming to, you know, to snack at your house, then you don't want to get this bird seed that has these big ginormous hunks of like sunflowers and all this stuff. You want to get seed that works well for the birds in your area. So many choices and so much possibility. So there's the suettes, which are just like, they're like patties of bird seed. And we sell these cages, which I don't have right here, but there's like a little cage that goes around it and it has a chain. So you can literally put the suet in the cage and hang it from like a tree limb. And then the birds can get to it and the rats and squirrels and stuff can't. So it's like a little lockdown to keep your suet safe from any outside rodents getting to it. Also, this bird feeder in particular is one that like is called Squirrel X, the best defense against squirrels. So, you know, squirrels can't get into it, all the bird seed goes inside, and then the birds can eat from the bottom. And again, you can protect it from anything else hitting to it, which is awesome. Here is one of the varieties of bird food. This one's called the Songbird Blend. What does it say is in it? Let's see if I can find it quickly. I cannot, but it looks like good stuff. Oh, here it is. Millet, black oil sunflower seed, cracked corn, safflower seed, chipped sunflowers, seed, peanuts, and striped sunflower seeds. So again, you know, this is going after the songbird, and you're thinking like size and of course, I guess appetite. Just like we don't want to eat the same thing all the time, I would imagine they'd like to have some different possibilities. And that's why like this suet pack, what is this, a 6-pack? Yeah, it's super cool because you get all sorts of varieties. There's like 6 different flavors so that they can, you know, have a little bit of interesting eating in their lives. I do like this one. This is the sock feeder only because it's just like so easy to use. And they just come right up, and it's for little birds for the most part, obviously finches, and it's got the Niger seed in it. And again, just hangs from a limb, super simple, and no muss, no fuss to clean up or anything like that. And then lastly, I really noticed this because I still have a bunch of hummingbirds that are not only at the store, but also at my house. And with all these rains, because the way that the feeders are made with the holes and stuff in them, the rainwater was dripping down into the holes, and all of a sudden what was like really bright red or whatever, you know, syrup for, you know, food for the hummingbirds was like super diluted and looked really weak. It was like juice with like water in it. It was very sad. So when it's raining really bad, kind of tuck your hummingbird feeder so that you don't waste an entire thing of hummingbird food. But there's still hummingbirds around. Make sure that you're still feeding them. But just again, be careful with the rain because it can fill them up with I'm sure water is good for them, but when they're hungry, that's not the move. Okay, what did I miss? I don't think I missed anything. I think that's it. I think I talked about everything that was in the January to do. Any questions, anything that I missed?
Yeah, no, you covered it really well. And thank you for all that information. Just because you did bring it up, I wanted to note, and again, everybody look at the website, but we do have rose pruning on February
Yes.
4th.
Yes.
And we have Japanese maple pruning on February 18th. And we have citrus pruning on March 25th. And then because you closed out with birds, this is a new class for us. And we linked up with the Golden Gate Audubon Society and the California Native Plant Society. And so they're going to do a class on March 22nd on gardening for the birds with native plants. So that's kind of fun. And then there are a couple questions. So
okay.
One was, when do beneficial insects start coming in available, and when can we start putting that? Is that kind of just like weather dependent? I don't know. Honestly, if it's February or March.
I would say you start seeing like beneficial nematodes and stuff like that start showing up in what is considered spring. I would say in terms of availability at the stores, February is probably a little bit too early still, but come March, we should all be pretty fully stocked with like nematodes. And then maybe a little bit later, you'll start to see ladybugs and stuff like that. A lot of stores are still selling, oh geez, Jen, you know, the long ones that move really slow that are like green and
praying mantis.
Praying mantis. Ugh, telling you too many things in here. So the praying mantis, all of those start to be available from our vendor. Like I said, I would say starting in March, moving into kind of April, May, they have to wait and harvest them. You know, when the winter breaks, then they go and harvest them all from these growing grounds that they have. And I want to say that one of the vendors that we use is up in the Tahoe area, and a lot of their growing grounds are up there. So after all this great snow and stuff that we've had, it might be a minute before they can go and, you know, harvest ladybugs and the sort, but definitely April, May-ish, you'll start to see a lot more of those, and probably March or so for the beneficial nematodes.
Okay, and when do we start planting seeds of like tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff for seedling? So
let's see, where are we? We are technically mid-January. Most of them, in terms of like getting an actual little seedling going, is about 6 weeks or so, if I remember correctly. So with that, you want to kind of count backwards then from whenever it is that, because tomato time isn't really until June. Like that's the time that you start to see the most varieties of tomatoes. Now, again, they're already like 4-inch by then. So you definitely, you know, need to start earlier. But let's say if you wanted something that was about that size by June, July-ish, then you probably want to be starting them sometime in March, I would say is probably safe. Then that gives you maybe to April and some change, and then gives it another month or two to like get bigger and stronger to be about 4-inch size, which again is what most of our tomatoes, the size that it comes in. We do get gallons. We used to get 2 gallons. I don't know if we'll be getting those anymore, but again, that's kind of like, because it stays so hot here for so long. I mean, geez, it was scorching in like September and October. So you're still going to have, you know, your tomato growing season is so long. Same thing with peppers and the like. So I would say March, again, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I would say sometime around March is a good time to start those seeds so that they are strong enough and ready to go into the ground by the time that tomatoes start being available, which is June-ish.
Yeah, agreed. Late February, early March, definitely all that stuff. And we do have a vegetable planting calendar up on our website. So you can also kind of chart out your garden. Just look that up on our website under the Learn tab. And I look at that calendar all the time because I forget a lot of times what you plant when. So that's helpful. Okay.
sure.
A lot of questions coming in. I know that everybody's like trying to get it going. Okay.
Yes, let's go.
How far back do you cut the ornamental grasses?
So you don't need to be scared with ornamental grasses. I always say don't let them be any taller than 6 inches. So anywhere really between like 3 to 6 inches, not from the top down to, so anywhere. So it should literally look like a 3 to 6 inch nub coming out of the ground, like you had a mohawk or something like that. Like it literally, and it's just to, it really is just to, you know, continue to keep like that root ball protected and keep it still intact, that you really have to leave much of anything, but those blades will come right out of there. So anywhere between 3 to 6 inches off of the ground is probably the best case for most of those ornamental, even the big ones. I know it feels uncomfortable to cut it back so far, but like the big purple fountain grasses and stuff, it's hard to get those down that low. So, you know, you don't want anything that's more than a foot tall for even the big massive ones. Anywhere like for those big ones between like 6 to 10, 6 to 12 maybe. But for the smaller ornamental grasses, things like the Carl Forester, a lot of those you can, you know, come all the way down to 6 or a little less.
Yeah, just keep in mind that whatever you leave, you're gonna, that the fresh stuff is gonna be growing through it. So if you
Yes.
have like 6 to 12 inches, you're gonna have 6 to 12 inches of dead stuff before
Yes.
it's be all fresh.
Absolutely.
That's the same thing with salvias, I think, are a really good
Yes.
example because, and I know it's scary, but you can pretty much cut them to the ground and
Absolutely.
you'll be rewarded because everything that comes up is fresh.
Absolutely.
Instead of sticks first and then fresh. So.
I always tell people, if you're scared, you know, then give it a year where you don't go crazy, you know, cut it down to a foot, maybe the first year because you're not comfortable. And then once you see what that growing process is, and once you're frustrated because that old grass is in the way of all the cool, new, fresh stuff, the following year, I guarantee you'll be like, this whole thing has got to go, and cut it down as far as you possibly can. Don't be scared. It'll grow back.
Yeah, I've definitely gone prune crazy before because I get in these moods with my garden and I'm just like cutting everything. And then I sort of look back and I'm like, that might have been a little too much. But then no, it's like a big, like everything just springs up and is like, thank you. That was really nice. It does help. I mean, somebody else was asking about roses before, pruning them back. Like even my roses still have leaves on them and some have buds on them and stuff, but like everything needs to rest. So that's another part, is like you're reconcentrating the energy back down to the core of the plant when you cut it back.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, they're full-size roses. I mean, these are not like newborns. These were full, you know, full roses. You can see with the wood, you know, like that trunk, this is not a baby sapling, but they cut it all the way back. So again, don't be scared to give it like the for real cut back. It is okay. It will grow back. And you're right. The same is true with the, I mean, they're so gorgeous when they come back after a really good hard prune, because again, it concentrates all that energy down into the core. And then when they come back, they're more compact. I feel like the color is brighter. You also have an opportunity to kind of, you know, artistically shape them so that it fits better into, you know, whatever your style is. So yeah, don't be afraid.
yeah, and that's also the time to move them around too. So
Totally.
like if you cut them first and then move them if you want to change the location.
Yes.
Because then just for that same reason, you're like the
shock.
Yeah, it's concentrated. The energy is concentrated to the core of the plant. So if you leave a bunch of dead stuff on and you transplant it, it's still trying to push up through that growth. But if you cut it back first and then transplant it.
Plus, you also have to think like that energy that's in the root system now has to go all the way to the farthest end of whatever that branch is to send out leaves and send out bloom. So if you shrink that distance, like just imagine how much more, you know, how much fuller that energy is going to be when it doesn't have, I mean, God, these are going to be the most gorgeous flowers ever. because all that energy was, down in there when and where it needed to be.
Yeah. I know. I'm this is like a really fun time of the year because it's like we're on the cusp of like a bunch of like amazing things that are going to start happening. So it's like really good that you are able to provide this information to sort of like get us started for the season. I know it's still kind of like rainy and muddy and stuff, but like we can start thinking about it and planning and preparing.
Yes.
And trimming, pruning, and the compost, the forest mulch is the closest thing we have to a topsoil. So you can literally just put it as a top dressing and it will retain moisture and it will percolate down, like Shannon said, and it will condition your soil. So that's incredible to put down right now. And I mean, I think that you covered it really good. I really appreciate everything that you presented. And I want to tell everyone that we are, this is being recorded and the recording should be available this Friday, which is 21, I think.
Wow.
Whatever Friday is, it's going to be there. And the recordings are nice because if you did feel like you missed something, you can go back and rewind and pause and whatnot. And then of course, any slope location that you go into, this is what we're talking about now in terms of, helping clients or customers that come into the store. So all of our staff is very familiar with all these products that Shannon has talked about, and we're happy to help and show you any one of these things. So we're at about an hour now. I know it's Wednesday night. It's dark.
Sorry.
Dark outside.
Yes.
No, we did it under an hour. So I think that was perfect.
Okay.
But thanks again. And thanks everyone for joining us and have a good rest of your evening. Hope
Thank
to see
you.
you. Bye.